The greatest advice that I ever received was in a single sentence of 9 words. And it was from a simple boy, a herdsboy. To date, I have never received such an advice. It was from the simplest young person, our herdsboy. His name is Munganga. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up and started crying. It was my safest time to cry, since double calamities had befallen me in a matter of a season. I would find myself crying before my age mates, and instead of them consoling me, they would walk away, and on a few occasions, I caught them backbiting me. Kimutu kikubwa tu hata haiwezi vumilia such things. We know people who had much more calamities than him and have moved on, but him, he's crying like a baby. So I chose to be crying at 3 a.m. This was during my second bachelorhood, if there is something that is called second or secondary bachelorhood. Now remember that time I believed that when I woke up at 3 a.m., I used to think that I was alone. Imagine waking up around 3 a.m. I would think those were the days before the last mile connectivity. We even used to have fireflies and whatever. I don't think they are even there today. So I used to wake up at 3 a.m. and in each and every day I would think I was alone and I would cry. I don't know how I used to forget that in my very same bedroom, the herdsboy was there, sleeping in a bed next to my bed. But it was so dark that I used to think that I was alone. It wasn't the first night. It must have been several nights, but I can't remember how many nights I used to wake up at night and cry. Then this particular night, Munganga gave me a 9-sentence magical words. This is what he said. JI-TENGE, I do understand what you are going through. In vernacular. JI-TENGE, naelewa unachopitia. I was startled. I was embarrassed. Remember, all this time, I existed in my own world. It never occurred to me those 3 a.m. instances that I was alone. I was with somebody in the same room. After crying around 3 a.m., I would soundly sleep, and in the morning I would have forgotten about the 3 a.m. weeping. A year has 4 seasons, isn't it? Now, in one season, that is a quarter of a year, 3 months if you want, I had seen the worst time in my life, even to date. Those last 3 months of that time were the worst I ever had, even up to this time of recording. I have never gone through such hardships in any time. At the beginning of what I can call devilish season, one of my bosses, Senior Assistant Commissioner of Police Raphael Kimayo, had publicly announced that I was on the list of the inspectors to be promoted to the rank of Chief Inspector. Then the following took place within 3 months. I lost my job, I lost my mother, and what's more, I was the center of everything concerning my mother's funeral. Imagine at that time had not lost any close relative apart from my grandfather, maternal grandfather, and my paternal grandmother. So that time I had not lost many. Like now, if anybody, if I lose anybody, I have an experience, I have a CV. So many of you may not understand what I was going through. Imagine an inspector being told that a list has been prepared and your name is the first on the list to be promoted. But instead of being promoted, you are summarily dismissed. Many people may not understand. If I look at my paternal aunts, all were married within 25 kilometers. In fact, the closest to our home, she was married 2.5 kilometers from our home. I have, not very many of you, have parents of different tribes. My mother and my father were not from the same tribe. So, what I go through, a person whose both parents are from the same tribe may not understand what I go through because of the cultures and traditions. I must repeat that I can never thank enough my relatives on my mother's side. From Kayaba, from Kayaba, a walking distance from Wamunyoro, who were very cooperative and are still cooperative. They had only two targets. Target number one was to fulfill their sister's wish, and target number two is to stand by their sister's children and mourn her. You see, they are consoling their sister's children while they themselves are also mourning their sister, but they did it very well. Real Luhya relatives, on the other hand, it's a long story. It's a long story. But forgive me, forgive me for telling the truth on feeling what I'm feeling. In a funeral, Luhyas, especially the northern Luhyas, look for mistakes. By northern Luhyas, I'm not even meaning people like Maragolis. Maragolis do spend, they handle funerals and other things in a very diplomatic way. But I'm meaning the Bukusu, Tachoni, Kabras, maybe if you add these Dombi people, Banyala, I would say they look for mistakes during funerals. And they will spend a lifetime criticizing it. A good example is this Malava UDA candidate who died. You have seen people who were supposed to compete against him. They were saying that UDA knew that he was to take the seat, but they were rigging him out. Now, if they knew that he was to take the seat, why did they offer themselves as candidate in other political parties? Now you find that candidates from other political parties are saying that he realized that UDA had their candidate, and so he died out of shock because of knowing that he is the most popular candidate and they are going to place their person. Now, if they knew he was the most popular candidate that was going to be in, why then offer themselves candidature? That is how Luhya are. Uh, other stories, which may also not be true, has to do with his wife, or now a widow. There is a story which we don't even know whether it is true or not, but it is said that uh, when she heard that her husband had collapsed and died, she went to 2 or 3 errands, and the people are saying, "Now, how can you be a widow and one time and immediately you run your errands?" From where I am, I believe that first of all, she never went for the errands, and even if she went for the errands, even if this falsehood is true, why make it a topic? Hmm? You, the man was very known. Of course, a person to reach his, he had a family or something. But some of these prominent people keep their families out of limelight. Now, why should you spend time now trying to say, "Oh, you see, the widow should have done this. You did this, or you are not supposed." That is quite normal among lawyers, and uh, especially northern lawyers. You find a man whose two sets of parents are 15 kilometers apart, criticizing me for the burial of my mother. Why was she married? Why was she buried in Madira and not Lugar? I don't know what. I don't know how it will affect you personally, even if I would have decided to cremate my mother. But you see, it becomes such a topic. People take you and disturb you, and it becomes, and it is your mother who has died. Okay, let me go to my story now. When we knew that my mother was dead, we confirmed it. It is us who confirmed it from the mortuary, and we told our father. He then asked me, as her eldest son, what action we were going to take. Now, that is a very strong point. Imagine my father asking me what we are going to take, what action we are going to take, instead of him now taking command of everything. After confirming to him that indeed mom was dead, he and my uncles on his side would have taken over. He would have, after telling him that it is true, mom is dead and whatever, and this is what we are doing, he should have overruled us. He should have taken a few of his siblings, and in African, siblings is wide, and then say that from there onwards, and then they would have gone to see my uncle on mother's side, and then they would, if anything would have happened that. But then it is my father who went to my uncles, on mother's side, and told them that the kids have decided that their mother is going to be buried here. It speaks a lot, short and clear. But you see, with the lawyers, when they see that when they heard that, they challenged him and said, "You had separated from her. You had not divorced." Actually, in lawyer tradition, there is nothing like divorce. But then they said you had. But oh yeah, let me correct myself. In lawyer, there used to be divorce. There used to be divorce, and in lawyer, divorce used to happen this way: when you marry a lady, you pay dowry, and when it reaches a time when the dowry in kettle is brought back to you, then that is divorce. But if it is not brought back, there is no divorce. So they challenged my father and said that you just separated from her. She was still your wife. Why did she? Why was she buried in her home? He turned on and said that he didn't want to upset the kids who appeared to have made their decision. We didn't appear that, but hiyo ilikuwa ni kuruka. And you see, the good thing about Kikuyu funerals is that once the Kikuyus are buried, they move on. But Luyas, that is when everything starts. And if I mean everything starts, I can record 14 episodes. Let us not go there. My father should have come out clean. He didn't. And you see, I would not have gone public and started Imambo. Oh, dad, it was this one. That was my father. I could not publicly enter into a debate with my father. And I don't understand why a cousin, any cousin of mine, who doesn't know where I live, like now, I don't stay at home, I stay in a rental house. I don't understand why a cousin, any cousin of mine, Luhia cousin, who doesn't know where I live, he doesn't know whether the agents have given me a notice to vacate, would suddenly pop up and micro manage my funeral. Personally, I don't like that. I've already recorded a video about somebody who was assumed dead, but he had not died. And so there's a lot of money that was contributed for his funeral. You can, if I remember, if I'll record in the comment section that video of somebody whom no relatives used to visit him and whatever. He lost his job and whatever. But when Chokora stole his CV documents, the Chokora was running away and hit by a vehicle and he died. And so there was a funeral whereby people thought it was him who had died. And on that very day at City Park, Nairobi, while he was sleeping on the bench, he dreamed of if he could get 1,000,000 shillings, this is the type of business he would start. So when he went to where he used to stay, he found that people had contributed the same amount. He took the amount and started a business. That is another story. I don't want to go into long stories, especially trying to be seen to be arguing with my father when he was alive. I accepted that the buck stopped with me and I confronted with still mind. You see, confronting problem with a still mind and character, you hide your emotions. At my private time, I would let my emotions out. I would let my emotions out. And as I said, I would share my emotions with my age mates, and you see how they used to spread that. Mwanaume mzima tu analia kama mtoto mdogo. So I found that the best way of removing my stress was the 3 a.m. morning period. And then in the morning, I would wake up having forgotten the stress. That is how I used to find myself crying at 3 a.m. You will not believe the split personality, but it used to happen to me. I wake up in the morning, I'm a strong commander doing everything that I would do. But then at night at 3 a.m., when I would think that I was alone, I would cry out my stress. That is how I used to live that time, unknowing. And as I said, it is a split personality, so that the me who was crying at 3 a.m. did not know that I used to think that I was alone. But after several cryings and whatever at 3 a.m., that night Munganga told me those magical words. Those 9 magical words. In English, they are 9. In Swahili and vernacular, they are less. The words are or were, JI-TENGE, I do understand what you are going through. That is when I realized that I was not alone in the room. Remember, I had a split personality. I would wake up at 3 a.m., think that I was the only one in the room, cry my heart out, sleep again. In the morning, I would wake up. I would not even know that I'd even woken up, whatever. But then something else hit me that time. Something else hit me at that time. Having been told those magical words, that he understood what I was going through, something came up to me, me. Here I am, an adult, crying like a baby in the presence of a boy. And the boy was reassuring me. Guy, not just a boy, but an orphan. Both his parents dead. I then visualized him, how he used to spend the whole day during those days. I visualized him at that very same moment. His life was routine. His life was routine. He would wake up in the morning, look after the cattle until evening, and then sleep. That was his. I can tell you that is a boring life. Eh? I visualized him, a very jovial person, with a stick on his right hand and a radio on his left shoulder, listening to the programs. Both parents dead, and an adult here with one parent dead, crying like a baby. I had to learn a secret from him. Then I asked him, when did your parents die? He told me that his father died while he was very young, and he cannot even visualize how his father looked like. What about your mother? How old were you when she died? He told me I was around 8 years old. He became a complete orphan when he was 8 years old. And here is somebody who is in the 30s, four times his age, crying like a baby. That is when the stories by his maternal aunts came to me. I want to say here that you see some of the things people he listen to you, people advise you, ABCD. If they have not gone through, I can tell you they forget it immediately. I had heard them the stories about it 1,000 times, but they entered one ear and left on the other ear. That is now when those stories became very important to me. Because people used to say, oh, this kid, when he was born, I never took it serious, but that time is when, and I'd had it 1,000 times, but I never took it any serious. But this time is when it now struck me. I will tell you, but condolence from people with experience is better. When somebody condoles you, kindly, if somebody has lost a parent, if somebody has lost a job, if somebody is condoling because of loss of his child or whatever, kindly, if you are a person with both parents and you are advising somebody, make it short and brief and go. If you know somebody who is in his situation, bring that person to him. Because here I am, 30 something years, missing my one parent, and somebody whose second parent died when he was a quarter of my age moves on. This is the person who can tell you that there is life after mourning. Munganga's mother was a Kabras. His father was a Mugishu from Uganda. As I said, his father died while he was very young. He can't even recall the face of his father. When his mother died, and remember his mother died when he was 8 years old, his paternal uncles wanted to kill them so that their portion of land is more. You see, if they kill their brother's children, when it comes to time for sharing land, it would be as if his father never existed. So they knew that, people knew that, and they were smuggled into Kenya to his mother's siblings. That is, his uncles and aunts on the mother's side. Now, each kid was divided into different. My mother also came through such an instance when, during the Mau Mau days, my grandmother was jailed with Mamangina in committee for Mau Mau activities. And so her siblings took over my mother and my aunts and my uncles. So Munganga also went through that. When they were brought to Kenya, his mother's siblings shared the kids. Now his aunt, whom he was given, because other kids were given to other, his aunt, instead of educating him, had him employed at our home as a herdsboy. The salary, if I tell you, you'll be shocked. But anyway, some of these salaries are important, because if he were not to be given any salary, it would mean that when my father had died, he would have been, what do you call, he would claim inheritance from my father. But him getting salary would also stop him from claiming, because we would always say that he is an employee. So the salary that he got, however little it was, he saved everything. Uh, he saved everything. If you earn more and spend everything, you are poorer than somebody who earns a fraction of your salary but saves a lot. With a place to sleep, food, and our used clothes we were giving to him, he used to save everything. Harvest time, he would buy maize cheaply and keep it. After a few months, the price of maize would rise up and he would sell it to people. So he raised his money. To cut the long story short, he bought goats, later converted the goats into cows. And the last time I checked, he had bought 2 acres of land. This is a dedication to him and those simple people whom God sends to give advice to you. As I said, in my life, I've never had a more important advice than those 9 words that he gave me. And those things changed me. Yes, I still mourn my mother. My father later came to die, but if if I approach my mother's grave, you would think that she died last week. But I've never mourned. I've never mourned any a relative, or all my relatives. I've never mourned them the way I've mourned my mother. But the person who made me get used to pass through was this herdsboy. We now go. Today is Sunday. We now go to the Holy Book, where we know that we people should respect herdsboys. Remember, Israel. Israel was saved by herdsboy, and the herdsboy had to kill a giant, and the herdsboy was the most hated person in the family. When his brothers were going to fight the Philistines, he remained at home. He remained at home to look after cattle. It was seen that he was the most powerless among them, and so the only good thing that he could do was to look after cattle and not be anywhere. Imagine he was the youngest. Imagine he was the most powerless than others. Imagine he was not to fight fronts. He was to remain at home looking after animal. And then the only way he could go to the field was to take food to his brothers, the warriors, and him, weak and meek, was to stay at home, look at everything. But when he went there, he never carried any weapon. The people had spears, people had everything. Even the giant himself had a giant spear, but he only used a small catapult and a stone to kill. Let us hail our cattle herders. Can I hear everybody say amen? Amen.